An old folded cloth map rests inside a veteran's footlocker, beneath a flight bag, letters, and photographs whose names are fading. The man who kept it is no longer there to explain where it traveled or why he saved it. At first glance, it looks like a faded silk map, but not every so-called silk escape map was made of silk. Its real history must be read through the fabric, printing, map code, geographic coverage, and the papers that survived beside it. That is why World War II escape maps still fascinate collectors. They are familiar enough to recognize as maps, yet strange enough to raise an immediate question. Why would military planners print geography on fabric when paper maps were already available everywhere? A close look makes the mystery stronger. Roads cross the weave. Borders bend along old folds. A small identification marking may sit near the edge, easy to overlook, but potentially more useful than the dramatic stain in the center. The first answer is practical. A cloth map could be folded into a remarkably small package and carried on the body or with flight equipment. It generally tolerated repeated folding and difficult conditions better than ordinary paper, and it could be handled with less rustling. Printing on both sides allowed one compact object to cover more territory. Cloth was not indestructible, and no surviving example should automatically be called waterproof. But for a person suddenly separated from his unit, portability and durability could matter more than elegance. This was not simply another map for planning a mission in a comfortable operations room. Escape and evasion maps were created for the moment when the original plan had failed. An aircraft might be down. A crewman might be far from friendly forces, uncertain of the nearest border, coastline, railway, road, or settlement. The map could not guarantee safety, and it did not tell a man exactly what he would encounter. It gave him something more basic, a compact picture of unfamiliar territory when his normal sources of information were gone. The early Allied story is closely connected to British Military Intelligence Section 9, better known as MI9. During the war, that organization developed specialized escape aids and maps for personnel who might be captured or forced to evade behind enemy lines. Maps appeared on silk, rayon, and even specially prepared tissue paper. The British work established an important pattern. Survival information had to be compact, concealable, and useful under pressure. When the United States entered the war, American services faced the same problem and developed their own escape and evasion systems. The United States Army and Navy both produced cloth maps for personnel who might be shot down, separated, or captured. American Army Air Force's crews carried such mapping in Europe, while survival and escape charts were also produced for the vast distances of the Pacific. Navy production included charts connected with naval air intelligence and hydrographic work. Some were printed on both sides to maximize coverage. Yet issue or production does not prove use. A surviving map may have been carried repeatedly, stored as spare equipment, retained after training, or never taken on an operational mission at all. This leads to the second common mistake. An old-looking cloth map is not automatically a genuine World War II escape map. Stains, fading, soft fabric, and worn folds can be persuasive, but appearance alone is weak evidence. A genuine wartime map that remained stored may look surprisingly clean. A later reproduction can be deliberately aged or simply become worn through decades of display. Collectors therefore evaluate the entire artifact: material, printed area, codes, typography, construction, known issue patterns, and provenance. No single dramatic feature should carry the whole conclusion. Material is a good place to begin, but it is also where terminology causes trouble. Silk map became a convenient name for the category, although surviving examples include true silk and manufactured fibers such as rayon. Some American cloth maps have been identified as rayon acetate rather than silk. Sheen, softness, and a fine weave may suggest a material, but they do not establish it with certainty. Destructive home tests can damage the object and erase evidence. When fiber identification truly matters, comparison with documented examples or examination by a qualified textile specialist is safer than guessing by touch. Next comes the geography, Collectors look at the exact regions shown, how those regions are divided, and which areas appear together on the front and reverse. A European map may emphasize borders, railways, and neighboring countries relevant to movement across occupied territory. A Pacific chart may confront an entirely different problem of islands, coastlines, open water, and enormous distances. Double-sided printing was not decoration. It increased the amount of useful information carried in a small space. Matching the precise combination of map areas to reliable records can help identify a known wartime issue or expose a later copy. Then there is the small printed code that may have drawn attention in the first place. Depending on the series, an identification number can point toward a map group, sheet, edition, geographic pairing, or issuing system. Its position, type, style, and relationship to the rest of the printing can be useful, but not every genuine escape map carries an obvious date or serial number, and a copied code remains only a copied code. The marking becomes meaningful when it agrees with the material, scale, geography, printing method, and documented examples of the same type. Printing deserves the same careful treatment. Ink settles differently on woven fabric than on smooth paper. Lines may soften slightly across the threads. Colors may not register with mechanical perfection, and small place names can be less sharp than they would be on a conventional chart. These qualities may be consistent with wartime production, but poor printing is not proof of age. Modern reproductions can imitate uneven color and faded ink. Collectors compare typography, line weight, color relationships, borders, legends, and the way printing continues across both sides, rather than judging one blurred name. Scale and geographic detail also reveal purpose. Roads, railways, rivers, coastlines, political boundaries, elevations, and settlements could help an isolated airman understand where he was and what lay beyond the horizon. Yet the map was not a written record of his route. A line printed across France or Italy does not show that its owner traveled that line. Even handwritten marks require caution. Geography explains what the object was designed to do. It does not, by itself, explain what happened to the individual who possessed it. Heavy wear creates perhaps the most tempting story of all. Deep folds may suggest that a map was carried compactly. Stains may suggest exposure to moisture, oil, or hard use. Frayed edges may show years of handling. None of those details proves that the map went behind enemy lines or guided an actual escape. Wear can come from wartime issue, post-war reuse, children unfolding a family keepsake, years inside a flight bag, framing, poor storage, or repeated examination by later owners. Honest interpretation stops where the physical evidence stops. A handwritten name or route can be more promising, but it also requires verification. A name may connect the map to a serviceman, or it may have been added by a later owner. An annotation may be wartime, post-war, or entirely unrelated to operational use. Collectors can compare handwriting with letters, logbooks, signatures, and service documents, while also considering the ink and the history of ownership. The important point is not to force a conclusion. A faint name is a lead to investigate, not permission to create a heroic provenance. And this is where the strongest evidence may not be printed on the fabric at all. The map code can identify what the object is, but a flight log, photograph, letter, or service record may explain why one particular man kept it. Provenance transforms interpretation because it reconnects standardized equipment with an individual life. Without that supporting trail, a map may still be an authentic wartime artifact. What remains unknown is whether it flew on missions, stayed in a locker, or entered the family through some later exchange. One documented example shows the difference. The Smithsonian's National Air and Space Museum preserves a silk map associated with United States Army Air Forces pilot Louis R. Purnell of the 99th Fighter Squadron. Museum records state that Purnell flew many missions over Italy with the map, and the object was donated by Purnell himself. Here, the identification does not rest on worn folds or an attractive story supplied by a later seller. The map, the named airman, the unit connection, the theater of service, and the documented transfer to the museum support one another. That example should not be used to decorate the history of an anonymous map. It demonstrates a standard of evidence, not a shortcut. Useful provenance may include a veteran's full name, unit information, service records, flight records, logbooks, wartime photographs, letters, original flight equipment, family notes, and a documented chain of ownership. Each piece can answer a different question. A photograph may place the man with his gear. A logbook may establish where he flew. A letter may explain why the map mattered. Together, they can reveal what fabric alone cannot. This also corrects another assumption. A genuine World War II map does not automatically possess a documented combat or escape history. Authenticity describes the object's period and production. Provenance describes its individual path. Those are related questions, but they are not the same question. An anonymous wartime example can still teach us about materials, printing, geography, and military planning. A documented example can go further and connect those features to a specific serviceman. Historical honesty allows both objects to matter without pretending that their stories are equally complete. Families sometimes erase that distinction without realizing it. The map is kept, but its envelope is discarded. A faded note is separated because it looks unimportant. Flight goggles are sold apart from the logbook. Photographs lose the names written on their backs. Once those relationships are broken, rebuilding them can be difficult or impossible. Before moving anything, photograph the map as found, including both sides, folds, edges, codes, containers, and nearby objects. Record who owned the group and how it entered the family. Context is not clutter. It is evidence. The same caution applies to preservation. Do not wash an old cloth map, iron it, chemically clean it, stretch it, or force deep folds flat before its material and significance are understood. Heat, moisture, pressure, and cleaning agents can alter fibers, move color, weaken folds, or remove traces that once helped explain storage and use. Keep labels, envelopes, pouches, letters, photographs, and family notes together. Protect the group from damp conditions and prolonged direct light. When intervention is necessary, a qualified textile or paper conservator can advise without turning preservation into guesswork. Collectors must also separate wartime maps from post-war issues, reproductions, and commemorative copies. A later chart may be a legitimate military object, but it should not be dated to the Second World War without evidence. Reproductions may repeat genuine map numbers, geographic areas, and even convincing colors. Conversely, a crisp edge or bright section does not automatically condemn a genuine piece that was carefully stored. The best evaluation compares several characteristics at once and uses reliable institutional or specialist references. Authentication is a process of agreement among details, not a verdict delivered by one stain, code, or thread. Collector interest can vary with wartime period, geographic coverage, material, condition, completeness, rarity of a particular issue, and the quality of its documentation. A named and verified association may change how a map is understood, while an anonymous example may attract attention for its unusual coverage or production. Historical significance does not automatically equal high market value, and family meaning is different from market demand. This is not an appraisal. Prices and interest can vary widely, and no object should be treated as an investment promise simply because it is old, scarce, or connected to wartime service. What makes the escape map enduring is the contrast between its first purpose and its survival today. During the war, it was practical equipment prepared for one of the most uncertain situations an airman could face: isolation, unfamiliar ground, and the loss of normal support. Decades later, the same map may lie folded inside a family archive, no longer guiding anyone across a border, but still pointing toward a life in uniform. The visual scenes accompanying this account are AI-assisted historical reconstructions for educational illustration and should not be interpreted as original archival photographs. Return to that footlocker and the object now looks different. The fabric explains how the map could be carried. The printed regions explain the danger it was meant to answer. The code and typography may help establish its place in a wartime series, but the letter, photograph, logbook, or name beside it may provide the human connection collectors value most. The map was designed to help someone read unfamiliar territory. Preserved with its evidence, it can help a family read a part of its own past. If you believe forgotten American objects still deserve to have their stories preserved, consider subscribing to Forgotten American Relics. Each episode examines another map, watch, medal, letter, or piece of wartime equipment before its context is separated, cleaned away, or simply forgotten. It was made to help a man find his way home. Today, it may help his family find their way back to his story.